On this episode, we talk with Blake Sibbett, moderator of the Bangkok Informed Facebook group.
So if you're curious about what it's like to manage one of Bangkok's unruly and unpredictable online forums, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001, and despite trying it multiple times over the years, is one of only like 5 people I've ever met who really does not enjoy Thai massage.
Really? That's weird.
Yeah.
And I met Kenneth, an American who came to Thailand on a 1-year teaching contract basically 18 years ago, and I fell in love with drenching my t-shirt in sweat after walking about 20 yards or so in the Thai summer.
Yeah, that's why it's not very fun to hug you.
There's other reasons too.
All right, well, we want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Alec Peoples, who supports us at the show shout-out level. So stick around after we're done talking about what it's like moderating an expat Facebook page to hear why Alec's proclivity for privacy is no match for my internet stalking skills.
And you can learn more about becoming a patron on our website. And of course, one of the cool things our patrons get is an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we talk about current events in Thailand and basically whatever else comes into our minds. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and it was a bit of a unique one. On an upcoming show, we're doing a roundtable discussion, which we really have never done before, with 4 expat women about what it's like dating in Bangkok. So we discussed why we're a bit nervous about it, how the topic fits into the bigger Bangkok puzzle, and the larger issue of discussing potentially sensitive topics with people, especially those that we know nothing about. So anyway, become a patron and you'll have access to some excellent bonus material.
Not ashamed at all to say I know nothing about what it's like dating as an expat woman in Bangkok.
Come on, Greg. I know you've gone in drag and done some undercover research. Come on.
The less said, the better about that.
You know, you in drag, I think, just would not fool anybody. I don't think that's possible.
I don't think it would even fool me on that one. All right. Well, if you've spent any amount of time online in Bangkok, you probably know the name of our guest on this episode. In addition to being the owner of Bangkok Best Life Real Estate, Blake Sibbett is the moderator of a new and growing expat Facebook group called Bangkok Informed. As most of you know, online expat forums can range from the dregs of humanity yelling insults at one another to genuinely helpful advice by others just looking to make things a bit easier. Now, reading through it all can be painful enough, but moderating it, man, that's a whole other ballgame. So here is my conversation with Blake Sibbett. All right, well, we are psyched to have one of my brand new friends. In fact, I just met him about 10 minutes ago. Guy by the name of Blake Sibbett, fellow Canadian.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, man. Good to meet you, longtime Bangkok resident. And I wanted to get you on the show because I recently joined a Facebook group that you are the moderator of.
Yeah.
And this is called Bangkok Informed,
Sure.
Which is kind of a newish Facebook group. And I've always been really interested in these sort of online spaces, bulletin boards, communities.
Yeah, same.
So they are particularly important now because I think, how long have you been in Thailand?
This will be 8 years in May.
8 years. Okay. So I've been here 18. And when I got here, I'm not sure, I can't remember what it was like 8 years ago, but certainly 18 years ago, there wasn't any of this stuff around. It didn't exist.
There was no
meetup.
kind of stuff 8 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Facebook groups were a thing back then.
Probably not. I think Facebook might have even been still restricted to like university.
No, I had Facebook in China before I arrived here.
Oh, yeah?
So,
okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't a Harvard EU kid or anything, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when I came to Thailand, when I came to Thailand in 2001, I remember the Thai consulate in Calgary telling me to go to Thai Visa. Like, any information you need, you go to Thai Visa. It's the place to go.
Yeah.
But it's Thai Visas. I've talked about it before, and everyone knows I don't really like it. It certainly serves a purpose.
It serves its purpose.
But it's sort of emblematic of the problem of running a big forum, is that everything seems to become a flame war.
Yeah.
And devolve almost into like a YouTube comment mishmash of just shit.
Everywhere will do that.
Yeah.
Regardless of the platform.
Yeah. So what's your take on the sort of landscape of these expat pages and forums in Bangkok?
They're pretty good. I like them because there's a pretty diverse group.
Okay.
There's in my opinion, there's everything from Sammy's group, DSBKK, that we're all familiar with if we're on Facebook.
Desperately Seeking
Bangkok, where Sammy has a team of people that kind of run those series of groups, where there's DSBKK active, there's the Bangkok Foodies group. They all kind of tie into each other, but they're very highly moderated.
Okay.
It's like DSBKK is only supposed to be for seeking posts. I'm looking for this. Nothing else should be there. No foul language. No. What that translates into, in my opinion, is no personality. So it's a great resource, but it doesn't necessarily have the same personality as other groups. And then we're all familiar with the specifically troll groups that go a little bit too far, that are at the complete other end of the spectrum. But there's a nice little group of the ones in the middle, where they're kind of a combination of both.
I see.
And from where I come from in the internet, I like to be able to moderate that broad spectrum of personalities. I come from forums. Back before Facebook was a thing, back before MySpace was a thing, we were on image boards and
the old IRC chats and stuff like that.
You remember what it was like in there?
Yeah,
what
dude.
The content of conversations and the photos posted and everything. It was meant to be pushed to the limit.
Right. But back then, the internet was the Wild West. It
was. There
was no rules. It was untamed. No one knew what the hell was going on, and everyone was seeing what they could get away with.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. And so I've seen how bad it can get.
Right.
And I try to trust my judgment in these middle ground groups of being able to moderate a level of content, like everything that's way too much or being way too strict.
Yeah.
Like, try not to be either of those things. Allow things that are far too vulgar or far too malicious, but at the same time, don't be too strict.
It's a bit of a tightrope, and we've seen it. The most famous or well-known case recently, I think, would probably be what with Reddit has been doing.
What's with that? I never got into Reddit.
No,
that's one. I've installed it and uninstalled it on my phone a half a dozen times.
I won't install it on my phone because that's all I'll do. So I look at it only occasionally on my computer. But they make one step this way towards free speech, and then everyone complains. They make another step the other way to make a course correction, and other people complain. Like, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So it's a bit of a tightrope you need to walk.
Yeah.
You can't please everyone all the time. So it seems to me like it would be just like a constant battle to try and take the middle path, to put it in a very Buddhist way.
As an admin, you have to stop listening to the majority of the complaints.
Really?
What you start to identify is that when it comes to any topic that requires moderation or requires admin in these groups, whether it be racist comments or whether it be a level of offensive content or anything like that, the people posting it and the people relentlessly complaining about it are two sides of the exact same coin of a problem. And both of these people need to be removed from the situation or just simply ignored, which both works.
It's really hard sometimes to ignore people.
For the majority of people on the internet, it is extremely hard for them to ignore people.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Everyone, especially with trolls, and people will say it with trolls on the internet, that the rule applies to them. Don't feed the trolls.
Right.
It applies to everyone. If you don't want to feed a mentality, if you want to see people to stop complaining, you can't complain at them. If you want someone to stop being offensive, you can't tell them to stop being offensive. The internet is simply content. If you want the internet to be something, if you want a Facebook group to be something, post that content. That's all you need to do. It's like propaganda. The more content you create of what you would like to see in a group, people follow suit.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Be the change. If you complain about it, all you're doing is creating pushback. And you will solidify the person that the person has got their reaction that they were looking for. They are more steadfast in their statement.
Yeah.
You're building their mentality exactly to be what you don't want it to be.
It's the old joke, right? Like, no one ever says, "Oh man, that guy changed my mind. I'm glad I got into a civil discussion with that guy."
Yeah.
Though there is a board on Reddit called Change My Mind, which is very strict rules about civil discourse, and someone posts an opinion and and people try to change their mind about it by presenting facts and arguments. It doesn't always work, but it's an interesting idea.
When the discourse becomes uncivil, the moderators step in. Yeah. Those types of
when discourse
niche
becomes
groups.
a discourse. You see
Yes.
what I did there? You play with it?
Yeah.
So as we speak, Bangkok Informed is coming up on 1,400 members, which ain't bad for something that started recently. How long has it been around?
It's been around for about 6 months. We started it as kind of a joke to Bangkok expats as a side thing.
Oh, yeah?
Where the biggest complaint, of course, in Bangkok expats, which was a great resource for people to come and get their questions answered, whether they were new to Bangkok and like existing in Bangkok. Nice big group of people, 30 to 50,000 members during my time.
Yeah.
But the majority of complaints came from repeat questions. Because unfortunately, when people join a group, they don't review the group. They don't go through or search and check and see if questions have been asked before. They just join the group and immediately ask their question. 90% of the time, that question has been asked more than 100 times already.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't just become completely jaded to it and don't care anymore and it doesn't bother you anymore, you get annoyed. So I started a second group for people. It's like, well, here's a group Bangkok Informed. If you have a problem with all the repeat questions, you already know where to find your maid. You know how to open a bank.
Right.
You know how to set up your home internet. You know which agency to call for a condo or how to find your own, that type of stuff. How to job hunt.
Right. I find a lot of the questions on the other forums too are sort of things like, where can I find shoes in Bangkok?
Yeah.
And it's like literally any mall in the entire city.
What's
in
a
the entire
good Thai
country.
restaurant?
Yeah. Right. So it can be a bit frustrating. So the idea of starting a group for people that already kind of know their way around is an interesting one. What's been the response, the feedback from the users, from the people?
Oh, it's good. It's a slower group, but it's almost like everyone knows everyone in the group, even though it's 1,400 members.
Right.
Which is a good number. And yeah, it's slow growing, getting the content moving along with it. But it's a good group of people.
Cool.
Yeah.
And as you probably are finding out, as I certainly found out with my blog and definitely this podcast, I mean, these quote unquote side gigs can eventually turn into like an all consuming hobby that takes up so much of your time. Like, how do you organize it? Is it just you doing it, or do you have some friends?
Well, no, it's not necessarily just me. Like setting up the group and everything. Yeah, sure. But there's a whole bunch of moderators in the group, especially the ones that came over from expats, whenever the hell happened with expats. So there's another real estate company owner. Phil is an admin. I just kind of pulled him in. I was like, yeah, become an admin. Why not? Back when I wasn't really considering to do anything with the group.
Right.
So we were just adding random admins and moderators. But all of the moderators from Bangkok expats came over. So people will manage the content and make sure that if anyone's trolling or trying to make it to like have a content that's going to start controversy in the group, they're there to take care of it. If reports happen, stuff like that. It's a community effort.
How do you draw the line? Because my experience was I only joined your group a few weeks ago. And It's been very helpful. There's been some interesting stuff on there. And I posted something myself. I posted a question about looking for a particular type of guest for the podcast that's hard to find. And I figured I'd tap into the brain trust of these expats. And I said I was looking for a woman to come on the show. Mm-hmm. And within 20 minutes, there was the most cliched, predictable response from some frat boy bro douche nozzle talking about, why don't you just go down to the salad bar and watch all these fat expat chicks put mayonnaise on their salad, croutons and stuff. And,
the person who made that comment is famous, by the way, but go ahead.
Really? I don't know who he is, but, and of course it was so perfect because like 3 comments later, he mentioned how buff he was, quote, buff. I'm just like, this is awesome. Right. I want a picture of this guy's biceps. But it's really hard to ignore that. And he got into a conversation back and forth with this one woman who took exception at what he said. And it was, I don't know, it was borderline offensive, borderline insulting. He was being a bit of a knob.
And so he's a really good example. And I will use him as an example when talking about the line. So referring to your original question, like where do you draw the line on it?
Right.
That gentleman's name is Ray Saint.
Okay.
And nothing that he says is wrong, ever. And a lot of people criticize him for his approach. Ray's problem is he really wants people to be more self-sufficient and display like that they've put more than just an initial jerk reaction into their thoughts and stuff like that.
I think there's a lot of irony there.
He's an intelligent guy, but the ironic part of it is his approach will never get him anywhere. If you go at someone, again, like we previously said, no one's going to be like, oh, wow, you're right. I am such a stupid idiot. And I should start doing things differently because I'm such a if you attack people, you're not going to accomplish anything.
Right.
So all he's doing is just causing himself stress.
Grief. Yeah.
Being the cause of his own grief.
Yeah.
But he's a great line. He's a great line to follow because he's very rarely personally attacking. He very rarely attacks the person and more exactly what they're saying. And he's not vulgar. Right. He's not going on to people's pages and pulling their photos off and making fun of them.
Right. Yeah.
As long as you're not being malicious and as long as you're not attacking the person. If you're going to ridicule something that someone says, and at least you're trying to be intelligent and or funny about it, let people be people.
I tend to agree. Yeah.
Once it gets to the point of less than light, that's when it's okay. Maybe you mute someone for a couple of days. The majority of people, when you mute them, because you can do a 24-hour, 3-day, or 7-day mute.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Where a person can't post or comment in the group for that allotted period of time.
Right.
That's a great way to just turn to someone and be like, "Hey, quit it."
Does it work? Is that
for a lot of people it does. For a lot of people it sets them off, and all of a sudden my phone starts ringing and people are screaming and yelling at me for muting them in the group and stuff like that. And it's like, really? Are you calling me about Facebook? Really? Stop and think about that for a second. Yeah.
This sounds like kind of a headache, man. I mean, what made you want to do this, and why take on this extra stress of moderating this huge group of people?
I don't consider it stressful.
Great.
Yeah, every time you're working towards making something better, when you're removing a problem from an equation, you have to deal with the problem in order to make the product or the situation or whatever it is better. To help improve something, you are going to have to deal with those problems.
Yeah.
And dealing with a problem typically involves a consequence.
Usually.
Yeah. I'll see people on the internet being like, I will get a lot of messages of, oh, yeah, go ahead, block me. That's all you can do. I'm like, but that's exactly what I'd like to do.
That's all I want to do.
Yeah, that's what I am going to do. Why are you saying that like it's a bad thing? I don't have to deal with you anymore. This is just the internet. You're not in my real life. You don't affect my real life. This is a Facebook group. You're causing a problem in the Facebook group. You're trying to be destructive. And we're trying to create a valuable resource here. So get out. Yeah, I'll receive messages, block the people. I'll get phone calls, block the number.
Interesting.
You just don't let it affect you.
Do you find that the group as it is a accurate representation of the expat culture in Bangkok? The expat
Reasonably,
population?
yeah. It's an accurate representation of, I'd say, 80% of the Bangkok population.
Interesting.
Because then there's about 20% that just shouldn't be part of the active expat community. Maybe these people should spend more time by themselves and off the internet.
I think a lot of these groups are almost a microcosm of Bangkok or Thailand itself. I think a lot, I've said this on the show before, I think a lot of the people who come here long term, like myself, to live in Bangkok as an expat, I think you have to be a little bit weird.
Of course. Yeah.
Anyway, you've got to reject a certain part of your home culture and your home language, etc. And I think a certain percentage of the people who end up here as expats are going to be a bit weirder than even the weirdos that come here anyway.
Yep.
You know, like
us, for example.
I guess so. But I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I just think that in any population, I guess there's a certain percentage of people that are going to be freaks.
Yeah.
I guess that applies to online communities as well.
It's the Pareto principle, right?
The what?
The Pareto principle.
I'm not familiar with that.
Pareto. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, so I might sound like a complete idiot. You never know.
No, unless me who doesn't even know what it is.
It's the 80-20 rule where, 80% of what you're the way that I employ the Pareto principle online is that 80% of what you're reading and 80% of the content online is just garbage. And you have to sift through for that 20% of
interesting
good responses, good content, so on and so forth.
Right.
It's more of an overall game theory principle. But yeah.
Now, do comments on the post have to be moderated, approved before they're posted?
No, I don't. Groups can be like that.
Yeah.
DSBKK is like that. A post requires approval, an admin or moderator's approval before it's even seen in the group. There's not a way to do that for comments.
Do you ever worry if someone wanted to post something, say, unwise about a particular topic in Thailand that shouldn't be discussed? Do you ever worry that might come back to you?
No. If it's something, of course, that's against, if it's lese majest, how do you pronounce that? Less or lease?
I sort of mishmash my way through it and go lese majest.
Les.
Just cough.
If it's about that stuff and it's seen, it'll just be immediately deleted.
Yeah.
The one thing that people are always commenting about are either people posting about doing illegal things, asking for illegal things, or defamatory posts where they're calling someone out on being a scammer or being one thing or the other.
Right.
In my opinion, if no one reports it and if the person that it's about doesn't complain about it, I'm not the police. It's not my job to deal with that. It doesn't break Facebook's rules. So if someone wants to report it to Facebook, that type of thing, okay, fine.
But that's out of your jurisdiction.
Yeah, I didn't make that post. I didn't facilitate it.
Right.
Those types of things. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily come back to me. But I will mind my own P's and Q's and keep myself in check online for stuff because my own comments can come back to me.
Sure, as you need to. I think
people need to be a little more aware of that.
I've said this before with my son as he's growing up. I'm going to just drill it into his head. Like anything you post online is there forever for everyone to see.
Yeah, not forever, but maybe for a long time.
Well, think like that. You know, just be safe and imagine that it is.
Yeah.
Imagine that everything you post on there is going to be read by the one person that you don't want to see it.
Yeah, that's it.
And you'll probably be safe. Well, as we're closing up here, with a group like this, how do you measure success? Is it just the sheer number of people that join? Is it the quality of the conversations? Is it how many flame wars people get into?
It's measured on, I guess, a lot of things, because there is a value in numbers where Bangkok Inform right now is being used. So it was previously set up just as an alternative to Bangkok Expats, a group that I was admitting along with another admin who had been an admin of the group since it was maybe 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 members. I'd been an admin of the group since it was about somewhere in between 20 to 30,000. And recently, near the end of last year, we started getting approached by some pretty substantial Thai companies about advertising in the group because it was now it had just passed 40,000 members. I'd gotten involved. We were now having events. We were having meetups. There was all kinds of very group-specific content that I was creating for it, making it its own thing.
Right.
And that was being seen by companies. So I won't mention who, of course, due to confidentiality. But myself, being someone that's on the internet a lot, I can't stand Facebook ads. There's a lot of Facebook ads that are pretty good. And every once in a while, if I see a Facebook ad that I actually like, I'll comment on it specifically to teach Facebook's algorithm. It's like, good job. You did something good for once. It's actually in English.
Right.
It's not snail white face cream or whatever.
It's actually something I might be interested in.
Yeah. It's an advertisement for a video game or something. It's like, really? You're paying attention, finally. But we were going to... The concept of ads was annoying in the group. So it developed the thought of, okay, well, let's think about other platforms that we could use to put ads on. Like thinking outside of the box. So someone wants to promote on Bangkok Expats, but I don't want ads in Bangkok Expats. So let's create something on another platform fully relative to the group, specifically for the group, that we can put ads on that. Keep this nice and clean. Keep this as the learning and community resource of what it is, and then have this type of platform, this type of platform, this type of platform as a secondary entertainment or learning resource that people could advertise on.
Okay.
Having the numbers of expats was great, but its engagement wasn't necessarily. See, when you look at your analytics, you get Facebook group analytics. So how many people are actually in the group? but then how many people are using it?
Right.
How many people view things? How many people interact with things? How many people actually care?
Because anyone can click a button that says join the group, but actually being a part of the community is a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah. How many active members? So from expats when I was kicked out, I had 47,000 members. We had 47,000 members, but there was in between 25 to 30,000 active members. So about 65%.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people indeed. Luckily, in Informed, with coming up on 1,400 members, there's 1,300 and something members, there's 1,200 and something active members.
Okay.
So it's a much higher active ratio. And as long as the group is maintaining that it's being used by everyone, that it's useful to everyone in some way, whether it's being used for important updates or things that can be helpful, anything along those lines, hoping to build the Bangkok business directory. Yeah. So everyone that is active and contributing and participating in the community should be getting something back out of it. And using groups like that as a platform, just to promote other people, it gives a good jump base for everyone to kind of come into. There's so many people in Bangkok expats that have built successful businesses thanks to the group.
Really?
Yeah. Guys like Christian, where he has a moving company.
Okay.
And now it's a joke. It's a meme that if someone's moving, you just tag Christian.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People that have no idea who he is. It's just, and he now comments the most tagged moving company, most recommended moving company in Bangkok. I'm like, good for you. And you see that happen with a lot of different businesses.
That's interesting.
Where without having the resource, they wouldn't have necessarily had the opportunity for success. And there's a lot of good people in this city. There's a lot of horrible people in this city that need to be banned out of these groups and left to do their own thing. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of great people that really benefit from the promotion. And the more people we keep bringing into that community, then the more successful it becomes. It's like free BNI.
Yeah.
Rather than having to pay some insane network membership every month.
That's a good comment to close on, because that's the whole reason why we're here today. This podcast exists because when I started it, I got tired of people sort of hearing the word Bangkok and thinking whores and beaches and temples,
exactly.
And I'm like, there's so much more
enough
here.
Of that, right?
Yeah, I think there are weirdos and freak shows and sexpats and creeps here, but there's also a lot of really good people living very successful traditional lives with real relationships and real careers. There's a lot more here to just whores and temples and beaches.
That's it.
And that's why this podcast, that's why my blog exists, and that's why these groups exist too, because it taps into that good soul of the city. So
I get to meet a lot of these people as a real estate person. So I'm usually a first point of contact for a lot of expats coming here, the person helping them find their home before they know anyone else except their HR manager. They know their real estate agent.
Right. So your real estate company is BKK Best Life Real Estate.
That's correct.
Right. And that's, you're an agent for rentals, for purchases?
Yeah. So I'm the managing director. Okay. But yeah, for purchases and rentals, and more geared. I actually own the company with my mother, Judy. She moved here about 5 years ago. And when she moved here, the first thing she had to do was find a condo. And 5 years ago, even still, just 5 years ago in Bangkok, you'd send out 40 emails on the various websites.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Maybe you'd get 2 or 3 replies. And if God was looking over your shoulder, someone actually sent you a condo that you were looking for.
Right. Yeah.
She did real estate in Canada for 18 years, top 5 agent. So when she got here, her first comment was, Blake, we have to open a real estate company. We have to do
a shit show.
They have, no one here seems to have any idea what they're doing. And then we researched into it, and they don't, because there's no licensing, there's no regulation. Remax was just starting to host seminars and classes on ethics and morals in real estate.
Really?
Because there's no test to pass, there's no school you have to go to be a real estate agent here. So people just actually don't know how to do real estate. And I was, at the time, manager of the Angel City Diner on Soy 11.
That was the old 1950s
1950s
diner.
diner.
I ate there a bunch of times.
Great food. I miss that place so much.
I really liked it. It's a shame it's
the food
gone.
was so good.
It's a shame it's gone.
Yeah. Owned by the now the owner of Smalls, David Jacobson.
Yeah, we hold our Bangkok podcast meetups at Smalls from time to time.
Do you?
Yeah,
Great.
great place.
David's a great person.
Yeah, again, there's a ton of good people here. It's just getting out there and getting to know them, and these communities like Bangkok Informed are key to that, I think. So,
But yeah, so taking that network, I'd already been here for about 3 years, and taking her expertise in the business, and yeah, 5 years later, we're not doing so bad.
Cool. Well, I'm glad these sites exist, man, because like we said, when I first got here, when you first got here, they either didn't exist or were in extremely nascent forms that weren't really doing what they are now. And it's great to have that resource here to help you meet people, find things, start businesses, get information.
Yeah.
So thanks for all the work you do, man, and continued success with the real estate and the Facebook group.
I'm looking to do a lot more with it. It's
Cool.
not successful yet.
All right, well, we'll have you back on another year, and we can touch base and see what's going on.
3 months.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
You know, Greg, I love this topic because over the years, I've tried a bunch of different forums, and all the kind of problems and issues you've talked about are definitely out there. But then again, there's a lot of really helpful expats as well, and I've gotten some good advice on some of those forums.
Yeah, it's really a kind of a crapshoot, and you gotta wade through a lot of crap before you find the diamond in the rough kind of thing. There are a ton of good resources out there. There's a ton of good people giving out good advice, but it's just the signal to noise ratio. There's just so much overwhelming crap that sometimes it's easy to get turned off. So many thanks to Blake for coming on the show and taking one for the team and being a moderator on one of these groups. Man, I don't think I would have the patience for that.
Yeah, he sounds like a great guy, but I don't think I would want to do what he's doing.
No, no. But a very interesting conversation. Thanks again, Blake. It was great to meet you, and maybe we'll get you back on the show again. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us surprises the other with a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have no feelings either way and could take it or leave it. So this week, it's Ed's turn. That's you.
All right, I got something very simple, straightforward.
All right, that's how I like it.
Greg, what do you think about Thai dragon fruit?
Ooh. This is an interesting one. This is I think it's a surprisingly controversial fruit.
Well, you got to admit that it's one of the coolest looking fruits ever.
Yeah, if you don't know, listeners, it's that one that looks like kind of like a pink baseball, but it's got like little flaps sticking off of it. Maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a softball, like a pink softball. Yeah. And it's got little fleshy flaps sticking off it and things sticking out of it. It looks like an alien fruit that you'd see in some sci-fi movie.
It does look like an alien fruit. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's funny. I love it, but I don't know why. It's not particularly tasty. It's not savory. It's not sweet. It's kind of like, you know what it is? It's the fruit equivalent of a glass of water.
Well, what bothers me about it is, and I'm not the first person who said this. I think I read this. I don't know. Someone on Facebook was talking about this, and basically, they made this comment that like dragon fruit is very deceptive because it's so cool and wild looking, but then you taste it and it has almost no flavor.
Exactly.
So it's like in a way, it's like the actual flesh of the fruit just doesn't live up to the name dragon fruit or the appearance of the fruit itself.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to take a bite out of this dragon fruit. Oh, that's spicy, but instead it's just like, yeah. And then as soon as you're done chewing it, you're like, I've forgotten what it tastes like.
Yeah. Listeners, you're entitled to your own opinion, but the bottom line is dragon fruit is like basically really bland.
Yeah, I love it. What about you?
I'm going to go loathe just because I feel like it's deceptive. That's my whole point. Is it's annoying because you're like, wow, this is going to be really cool. This is going to be really interesting. And you're worried about, am I going to be able to handle this? Maybe it's going to be like really pungent or sweet or tangy or sour. And then you taste it and it's like nothing. So I'm going to go loathe. I loathe it.
Things that make Ed angry. Fruit.
Yeah. It's false advertising.
That's funny. All right.
Anyway, so as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Alec for lending us his support at the show shout-out level. And Greg, what did you find out about Alec?
Well, as it turns out, Edward, Alec seems like quite a private guy. He didn't give us much information over email, and his Twitter and Instagram accounts are set to private. So I had to turn to some good old internet sleuthing / stalking to get an idea of who our patron friend is. So, so I dug around a bit. I found a few interviews with him online, a couple of things that he'd written, and a couple of things he talked about. And I came up with a few interesting facts about Alec. And just to keep things interesting, I'm going to throw out a few wildcard facts in here that aren't true and see if you can spot them as I go through this list. So
I've got to figure out which is true and which is not.
That's right. So Alec is a self-taught graphic and web designer. So right off the bat, he's a tech nerd. It's my kind of people. I like him already. Sounds like a good guy. I mean, anyone who can take a blank screen and design something cool, that's a skill to be admired. He loves jazz, which endears him to you, especially, Ed. So perhaps we even sat next to each other at Brown Sugar or Ad here one night.
Could be.
I wonder how many people who listen to the show who have sat right next to us or behind us or in front of us someplace. All right, the next fact is Alec once accidentally raised a demon from the pits of hell by mispronouncing his order at a Thai restaurant.
Whoa.
Yeah. And much like you and I, Alec came to Thailand and planned to stay only for a short while, but that was several years ago. So as we're going through this list, we're finding we have more and more in common with this guy. Likes bourbon. I don't even know, what is it?
I'm no expert on beverages, but I think bourbon is made from corn, so that's what makes it special.
Oh, all right. The next fact, he wears the same thing every day, a red zoot suit. And he lives in Pink Lao on our side of the river, the cool side of the river.
Dude, you cannot get anything past me. There's no way he lives on our side of the river. No one lives on our side of the river.
But that's the fake fact, is it?
That's all I can find.
Well, I'll spill a secret here. The demon raising and the zoot suit were also false statements.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does he actually live on our side of the river?
I think so, yeah. At least that's some information I found. He mentioned that online.
That's incredible.
Alec, welcome to our side of the river, man. We love living over here, and I hope you do too. We know that all the cool people eventually come over to the Tonbury side of the river.
That's right.
All right, so you take all those things together, and I think Alex sounds like our kind of guy. I mean, he's definitely our friend because he supports the show, but he also sounds like a cool dude over and above that.
Agreed.
Yeah, well, thanks, Alec. We appreciate the support, man, and we hope you enjoy the bonus show that has been whizzing into your ears since you signed up.
Okay, before we wrap up, I'd like to give a special thanks to all of our lovely patrons. As you know, we don't run ads or have sponsors, so we really do appreciate the support we get from our patrons. If you want to learn more, just head to bangkokpodcast.com/support. And if you want to get in touch with us, it's easy. Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We are very polite, and if you write, we will answer.
Yeah, you can also find each episode on YouTube, and you can also follow us online, where we post each episode and carry on conversations with you, our listeners. You can also reach out to me directly on Twitter if you'd like, where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you back here next week. True that. And all right, before we jump into it, I want to remember everyone. Right on. All right. Well, before we jump into it, I want to. Fuck, how did I screw the same thing twice in a row? All right.